This morning we have the Reverend Bill Proctor, who is the senior pastor at First Presbyterian Church, to lead us in prayer.
Good morning. Allow me to lead us in prayer. Let us pray. Good and holy God, I thank you first for our mayor and members of council and for their willingness and desire to serve this community with creativity and wisdom and justice. I thank you for the members of the city staff who are here this morning to do their jobs and ask your blessing upon them. Then I thank you for fellow residents of this community who are here this morning to present their issues and concerns. Bless them as well, I pray. And then, Lord, I ask that you would share with San Angelo some of the rains that you have so generously shared with so many other Texans this week, that we might be refreshed by your love and your grace and your mercy once again. Amen.
And today we have Jaylee Brinley, who is entering the 5th grade at Fort Concho. Come on up here. And she also assisted with the Hunger Initiative's Community Garden, which we will have a proclamation for the Hunger Initiative shortly.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas.
Do I have anyone here from the Tom Green County Hunger Initiative? Come on up here, Mary. The Texas Hunger Initiative is a collaborative effort both statewide and locally. Our goal is to end hunger in Texas through policy, education, research, grassroots organizing, and community development. San Angelo is one of 8 Texas cities selected to have a regional office with the dual purpose of promoting child nutrition programs through local outreach and coordination, and of working toward the creation of hunger-free communities, coalitions in the communities within our 23-county region. In Tom Green County, more than 1 in 4 families with children had times during the last year when there was not enough money to buy food. That is 5,400 households in San Angelo. The goal for the Tom Green County Hunger Initiative for 2018 is to feed more children during the summer when school is not in session. In San Angelo, over 8,600 students receive free or reduced meals when school is in session, more than 60% of all students. After summer school ends in June, local churches, ministries, organizations, businesses, and numerous individuals have committed to provide meals in July and August at 10 San Angelo neighborhood sites and 1 site in nearby Carlsbad. Therefore, I, Brenda Gunter, Mayor of the City of San Angelo, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby recognize and applaud the Tom Green County Hunger Initiative for their achievement and positive determination to make a difference in our community through the Kids Eat Free Summer Meal Program. Thank you, Mary. I'm glad to have you here today. Would you like to, why don't you turn in, and they're going to take pictures.
Thank you very much for giving us this award, this proclamation today. I just wanted to tell you that we are so excited to be having our 9th summer for Kids Eat Free. We have a connection with one of our council members, Tommy Hebert's wife, Carol, and I were the 2 that worked to get this Kids Eat Free in 2010. and we had our first summer that summer. So we are very excited that we have been able to serve over 160,000 meals to children in the time that we've had Kids Eat Free going. We'll have 10 sites this summer, and we have many churches and individuals and businesses that help us with this. It would not be possible without the efforts of so many volunteers. The churches sponsor all of these sites, pay for the food, cook the food, serve the food. And the one thing that sets us apart from other sites is that we do offer activities for the children at each of the sites so that they can have fun as well as being fed. After all, this is summer and it should be fun, so we like to do that as well. But we really appreciate your time, and we would love for you to pass the word to any children that you might be aware of that might need our help. Thank you so much.
As a reminder, we will ask that all people please turn your cell phones off at this point in time. Double check them, please. And we will open up the meeting for public comment. Issues or items that are not on the agenda may be raised by the public at this time. Citizens should speak from the podium, begin by stating their name, and limit remarks to less than 3 minutes. Council members may request that a discussed item be placed on a future agenda. The council takes public comment on all regular agenda items during the discussion of those items. Is there any public comment today?
Yes, I'm John Muckleroy, the retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel and current commander of the VFW Post 1815. On behalf of Don Marsh and myself, we've been working on a proposal that would involve putting what we're terming a walk of honor, which should utilize part of the Riverwalk, preferably in the downtown area, to recognize people from San Angelo or that have moved into San Angelo that have achieved success in their field of endeavor. And it could be in the military, it could be in the arts, music, people like Fess Parker and whatever. And we propose to have a committee of 6 or 7 people that would submit names and then agree on people to be put on the walk. We're looking at plaques similar to the roadside plaques that the Highway Department puts out. They would be nice aluminum plaques, roughly 2 feet off the ground and slanted so that people could walk along and read the names and what the people had achieved. And the names should be familiar to most of the people because they would be people that have achieved some degree of success in their field. And that's what we're looking at doing, and we're going to propose this and get hopefully grants to make that a success. But we're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of $40,000 to propose to do the first section, which would be perhaps 20 names. The plaques are about $1,500 a piece, and we'd have a plaque at the start and at the end of the line that would proclaim that this was a walk of honor of people that had been or associated with San Angelo. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any further public comment?
Good morning, Bob Solis, Neighborhood Services. We hosted our 8th annual Code Enforcement Officer Licensing Renewal Classes recently. We had 24 attendees from as far code officers, including from Midland, Big Lake, Del Rio, Sweetwater, and of course our local code enforcement officers. And we want to thank several people, starting with Councilwoman Billy DeWitt, who gave us our opening remarks and provided some snacks in the morning. Appreciate that. Wow. We had Judge Jay Daniel, who spoke on de-escalation, Ms. Teresa James, who spoke on legal aspects related to code enforcement. We had Rebecca Guerra, who spoke about ethics related to code enforcement. We had Don Solari, who spoke about qualified immunity. Shannon McMillan, who gave us a stormwater presentation and door prizes. And then we had Diane Bays from the Visitor Center, who provided our welcome to San Angelo and a bag of goodies for everyone. And we certainly couldn't have done it without them. We wanted to thank them publicly for all they did. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Further public comment? With no further public comment, we will close the public comment section of the agenda, and we will move into the consent agenda. I'm going to start with Tommy. Do you have anything you'd like to pull from the consent agenda?
No, ma'am.
Tom?
No, ma'am.
To Harry?
E.
Lucy? No, ma'am. Lane?
No, ma'am.
Billy?
Yes, I have something I want to pull, but if you could indulge me for just a moment, Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you to you for the proclamation from the city for recognizing Juneteenth on Saturday and for leading the parade. We just appreciate you so much for your presence and for your suggestions for making it better next year. And I want to thank Councilwoman Gonzalez for being there, participating, and reading the proclamation for Juneteenth. We appreciate you, Lucy. I know it's your district, but you didn't have to do it, and I do appreciate you for doing that. And then a couple of other, so many times we don't hear all of the positive. And last week I had several instances where I had disgruntled constituents, I'll put it like that. And first of all, the operations division, Miss Vicki Porter, I called her and she directed me. She seemed to know everything about everything, and she directed me to who I should go to. So I want to thank her for her expertise and her assistance. And she said, oh, you don't need to call them. She said, I'll take care of that for you. And I said, no, let me do it. And she gave me the gentleman's name, Stephen Conley. And I understand right now Stephen has a pretty big job. I think he's covering 2 departments. And he was so responsive that in all the instances where I needed assistance, the very next day I was getting a call from my constituents and their appreciation for how quickly we responded to what that situation was. So Ms. Vicki Porter and Stephen Conley, and also Russell Pell, because Russell, he just went to all the trouble to give me such a long email outlining a response to my constituent that I called him and I said, Russell, can I just forward them this email? Because it was concise, it was very clear, and it was recognized by the gentleman that had the issues with the roads on College Hill. So I just appreciate the work that our city group, I appreciate it so much. And I see Carl back there, and I don't want to forget to thank Carl. The park for Juneteenth looked great, so thank you to you and your staff for that. So I know there are many other people that have helped me over these last 11 months, and I want all of you to know it's really appreciated, so thank you. And I would like to pull item F. F.
Okay. At this point in time, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of items E and F?
I'll move.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Harry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item E, consider authorizing the city manager to reject all bids received for RFB FS-12-18 body shop repair. And I think, Harry, you wanted that one pulled.
There's a couple of questions that I just want clarified so that the citizens that are watching this will have a better understanding. This will not affect any of the body work that you're presently having. Is that correct, Ryan?
No, sir. At the present moment, our previous contract did lapse, and so we're attempting to virtually renew that same process. But in the interim between those time periods, we're still quoting and repairing as needed. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and the two individual body shops that bid and basically had a good bid, even though we didn't have 3, and that was what we wanted. These 2 individual shops can rebid, is that correct, or how that process works?
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, let me point out that This rejection or recommended rejection is no reflection on their ability to service us. They've done a great job in the past for us, and I'm confident that they'll do a great job in the future. However, the quantity is what's so concerning, is that we have enough body work to spread around, that if we restrict ourselves to just a minor number of body shops, that will really be delaying our repairs, which is impactful to our organization and in our operations divisions.
Thank you, Ed. I just want the citizens to have a better understanding of why we're doing this, knowing that we have the need. So with that, move for approval on item E.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Item F, consider resolution suspending for 90 days the proposed effective date for the rate increase provided in the filing made around June 1st, 2018 by Atmos Energy for its Mid-Tex division. Teresa James, you're on, I think, for this one. Do you have anything comment, or Billy, you want to ask the question?
I have questions. We heard about this first, about 3 or 4 city council meetings ago, Teresa, and it was my understanding that we're one of 50 cities that had a concern about the rate increase that Atmos was proposing, and that we were going to, I'm not sure what our next steps were, but it sounds like they got approval or authorization to go ahead with the rate increases. So I'm just wondering if we know what those increases are going to be, and whether or not, this suspension is automatic, or does it have to have approval from somewhere?
This particular item actually deals with a filing that was done, I believe, in June of this year. It was very recent. This is not the same filing as was addressed before. So what we're doing today is we are saying that you have provided us this information saying you want to increase commercial rates and reduce all the other rates. And they provided us a packet of information, us being the attorneys that these 50 cities have hired to represent all of us on these matters. So they need time to review all this information related to these increases and decreases in the rates. And they asked for an effective date on these increases to be July 6th. And that is not enough time for the attorneys to review the information. So what this particular resolution does is it suspends the increase until we have time to review the information and make a decision on how we want to respond to it. So there has not been an approved increase or decrease in the rates. This is the beginning of a process.
Thank you. That's what I wondered, because in reading it, it looked like it had already been approved and that the residential rates were going to go up and the commercial rates were going to come down. And I just wasn't real clear on that, so thank you for that clarification.
These happen periodically, so we will see more of these as time goes on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
With that, Mayor, I move to approve item F.
Is there a second? Do I have any public comment at this point? If not, a motion to vote has been made, and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Second. That motion passes 7-0. Sorry. Okay, we'll move into the regular agenda. Item A is a report from the Convention and Visitors Bureau, the CVB, and the Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Council. Presentations will be made by Diana Bays and Michael Looney. Diane, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor, City Council, city staff, and citizens. I appreciate the opportunity to come here and visit with you today about what we're doing at the Convention and Visitors Bureau. I always want to share our mission, which is to seek to enhance the quality of life for the citizens of San Angelo through tourism marketing and promotion. I'm trying, don't know why. It just stopped. There it is, okay. And these are the goals that our board worked on during our strategic planning session, and then they were again approved by the Chamber of Commerce. So to increase our occupancy, to communicate the need for wayfinding and connectivity, brand awareness, expanding the tourism base through a broader understanding and appreciation of the economic impact of tourism industry, and to encourage tourism product development and strategies to address future growth. How we do this, we utilize our staff. It's a small staff. Myself, Susanna Aguirre, she is our Leisure Smurf sales manager. Amy Roberts is our Association Corporate Sales Manager. Linda Burdell is our Visitor Center Coordinator. Our ASU intern and graphic designer, she's actually just graduated, will be leaving us mid-July, which we're a little depressed about, Victoria Nakamura, but has done a fabulous job with our ad campaigns, our part-time visitor center employees, and of course, our visitor center volunteers. So the January-May results. For the first 5 months of the year, we have booked or provided services to 35 conventions, meetings, sporting events, weddings, motor coach tours. The projected attendance of these activities was 15,535, and then projected room nights of 6,260. So the total economic impact is over $1 million. So we're very proud of that fact. And again, the longer they stay, the more they spend. This is not just hotel tax dollars that are affected by this, but also people going to restaurants, purchasing items in our retail establishments, eating going to our attractions, filling up at our gas stations, utilizing our airports, all of those things. So the economic impact for tourism is a pure industry. I've said it before. It's the purest form of economic development, money in, and it's brand new money. So we want more visitors to come because that does help our industry. So how are we also doing this? Through our convention, meeting, and sports market. So these are just some of the examples of places we have either placed ads or staff has gone for trade shows. So Texas Runner and Triathlete magazine, because of the different types of triathlons and running sports that we have in our community. Sports Events magazine, again, this highlights our sporting venues. Texas Sports Facility Guide, the National Association of Sports Commissions, which Susanna went to. This is an appointment trade show. She gets to choose prior to going which types of clients would actually fit with our product. So it's not just a random piece, it's something that we actually do strategy on. American Bus Association, this is another activity Susanna went to. ABA is also done through Team Texas and the governor's office, so we went as a team contingency with Team Texas. The Texas Tour and Meeting Guide is another publication. The 2018 Meeting Planner Guide for Texas. Meet Texas, yet another opportunity to market what we do. And then Southwest Showcase is an activity that Amy and I both went to. This was her first time to be in attendance at this trade show. I've done it several times in my previous career, and we got a number of qualified leads. In fact, we booked business off of those leads from Southwest Showcase, so we're excited about that. The Texas Association of Convention and Visitors Bureau's Austin Sales Blitz. This is an opportunity for CVBs from across the state to work together and go to associations to express the actual need for an association planner to work with a Convention and Visitors Bureau, because we can help them anywhere from registration assistance to helping them with the room block to get better rates at the hotels, and also to provide them goodie bags, VIP bags for their guests when they're here. Amy volunteered for the Roseland Oil Convention. Since we're an oil and gas community and our area, we felt strongly that that is something we needed to do. We also, both of the staff do sales calls in our metroplex cities based on the need, and then monthly calls to Midland. Amy is a member of Desk and Derrick, and in fact, she was just nominated as a Newcomer of the Year by the people who are in charge in Midland. So she's done a lot of work there. The Texas State Travel Guide. We've already received 150 leads, and when I say leads, these are people who have said they want information about our community, and so we have email addresses and addresses that we send them information. True West Magazine, this is a new program that we've participated in because we do embrace our Western heritage and believe that it is important to us. That has also an online component, which is important to what we do. Authentic Texas Magazine is done by the Texas Historical Commission, and we are part of the Texas Forts Trail region, and so they are a major player in this. Texas Town and City Magazine, you should have all on the dais received this magazine. The April issue is their largest issue. It's their tourism issue. Our industry writes articles for that magazine to help the city leadership and council members to understand the importance of our industry. Texas Parks and Wildlife Magazine, this is yet another new program that we've decided to market because it is a niche market for us, and we feel strongly that our parks, our nature, are good proponents for us. See Texas First, when people say print is dead, this is an example of why print is not dead. See Texas First is an insert done by the Office of the Governor and the Texas Travel Industry Association. This goes into subscribers of newspapers, and these are from all over the country. We've received over, as of today, probably closer to, 12,000 leads from this, and these are, again, emails. These people now get our newsletter. They have requested information. ShopAcrossTexas.com is an online site, and we have stories there that they have developed because we did bring them in, and I toured them for a day around our community to show them what the different retail unique establishments we had to see. And then TourTexas.com is an online component. Again, going back in, Living Magazine, we did not advertise in the San Angelo issue, but we advertised in all the others. Texas Highways Magazine, Where to Retire Magazine, the events calendar, Good Housekeeping, Red Book, Woman's Day, Travel Host West Texas. You can see all of these. These are actually in my office right now if you have an interest. Other leisure tourism marketing, I went to El Paso for the TxDOT Travel Counselors Travel Fair. This is an appointment-based fair. We have a table. I introduced 48 appointments, two to three each, 3-minute appointments telling them about what there was new to see in San Angelo. And these are the travel information centers on the borders of the state, so there are 12 of those in the state. We also sponsored the craft beer experience this year and also the San Angelo Stock Show and Rodeo, the new wine tent. We had plastic cups with our logo on them, and I can tell you that we did see increases every weekend in February because of that. So people were going to our site. So these are our social media places and website. Our DiscoverSanAngelo.com website has had over 127,000 page views in 5 months. And the good thing about that is, and I added the session duration because that's important, because when we started, it was around 2.5 minutes. Now they're staying on for longer. So they're finding information, they're wanting to be there, and they're going through a lot of pages. Facebook, more than 12,000 likes. Twitter, 674 followers. Instagram, back in April of last year, we had 200 followers. We're up to over 1,000. Pinterest is new to us, and we now are averaging around 642 viewers per month. And then, of course, our YouTube page. And I will say that we'll be adding another 4 videos in the next few weeks for YouTube. And while the YouTube numbers are not high, those numbers on our Facebook page are very high. I think I shared with you when we launched our video last November, we had 87,000 views and about 2,700 shares for that video. So it's pretty important. So hotel occupancy comparison, these are the numbers you guys want to see. January through April of last year, occupancy was 47.7%, and the ADR average rate was 68.36. You see the increase from year over year, 59% occupancy and $77 average daily rate. Those are good numbers. Yes, a lot of that contributes to oil and gas, but we are excited about that number continuing to increase, and we have seen those increases every month this year. So community outreach is also important to us with our goals to educate the people in our community what there is to see and do and what the importance of our industry is. We also do this statewide. So I was a co-presenter at the Texas Historical Commission Real Places 2018 conference, trying to help those historical attractions understand the importance of the travel industry and how they can capture more visitors. I also serve on the TACVB Board of Directors. Texas Travel Industry Association, we had the Unity Dinner. Councilman Carter, Mayor Gunter attended that, and so I appreciate that opportunity. We continue to do Goodfellow tours monthly and bi-monthly, occasionally when they ask for them to come a couple of times that month. Texas Friendly Hospitality Training, we do this quarterly. In fact, this afternoon and tomorrow morning, they will be held at the Fairfield Inn. And the San Angelo Hotel Association, we started quarterly meetings with them so we can understand the hotel issues. National Travel and Tourism Week, we highlighted our industry by showcasing the 3,100 employees who work in the industry, and then we also had our tourism luncheon. I've done presentations to YPSA and Sunrise Rotary locally, and then we've done outreach to the San Angelo Restaurant Association because we know that they go hand in hand with what we do, as well as working for Goodfellow Appreciation Day. So upcoming efforts that we have, we're seeking the Texas Music Friendly designation from the Texas Music Office. We got the Film Friendly designation, and we have been receiving leads from them. And so now we're going to seek out the Music Friendly designation. We are looking to them and talking to the Music Office about hosting a workshop here so that we can even help, even with regionals, to help bring other people in who might want to seek this. We're participating in programs with the Office of the Governor and Travel and Tourism Division starting in September. Developing regional cooperative and marketing to showcase West Texas to travel counselors in the governor's office. We've been working with Lubbock, Big Spring, Odessa, Midland to say, hey, we exist too. There's something between El Paso and the Big Bend and Austin that you aren't talking about, so we want you to start talking about us. We are also going to be seeking the top 10 Western Town designation from True West. We've had a steering committee, which included Councilman Thompson, to talk about what that needs to look like. This was something we received last year, an invitation to do it, but it was so late that we said we want to do it right so that we do have the opportunity to win this. And then, of course, we're scheduling a FAM tour for independent filmmakers in the fall. I met with someone who actually works on our website, but her husband and she work also with the Austin Music Festival. So we're trying to reach out to independent filmmakers to have them come for a familiarization tour to showcase what they could do to film. We're hosting bloggers and families in July. I also will add that I have another travel writer who just reached out to me last week and is coming next weekend with her two boys because she wants to show what there is to see and do for children here in San Angelo. We are continuing to develop the leisure tour and then familiarization tours for Desk and Derek, that's another one that's coming up. Continue to develop tour itineraries. Susanna has done a fabulous job in seeing what there is not only in San Angelo, but in the surrounding communities to help with tour operators when they are coming in looking. Further promotion of our niche markets. And then, of course, I want to always share the accountability of the CVB, who we report to, our executive committee, the advisory board, the Chamber Finance Committee, the Chamber Executive Committee, and the Chamber Board of Directors. So we do this on a monthly basis so they see what is happening with us and how we're spending our hotel tax dollars. I think that's it.
Diane, you showed $1 million impact this year. Do you have a comparison to last year's numbers?
I do not.
Okay.
That was prior to me arriving, so I would have to see if I can find that information for you, though.
Perfect. I also want to say thank you for going after the Western and the West concept here in San Angelo. I think that's a huge, big opportunity, and I'm thrilled to see you focusing on it and making that part of your direction.
Thank you.
And have you reached the 5%? You said you have a goal of 5%.
Well, right now we are over that.
You are.
So we hope it will continue. I don't know that we can sustain that every year. I mean, once we're at hopefully 80%, that will be a difficult thing to say, hey, let's hit 85. But we at least tried this year to push it harder than we have in the past and put a number behind it.
Well, I think with your well-thought-out strategy, and I think it is well thought out, and I think it's broad in concept, which is really good. So I think with that, you will be able to. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Do I have any other comments from council or Daniel?
Yeah, Mayor, just briefly. First of all, a couple of months ago, actually, you did the presentation with the chamber at their luncheon. Probably one of the best I've ever seen, by the way. Thank you for that. It was very informative. You had the same question, Mayor, 5% goal. You're already at 10%, so I wasn't sure if that goal was high enough or, it's kind of hard to sustain, as you mentioned a while ago. Yeah.
So that was, we started with 5 and said, okay, next year when we look at this, because that will always be a goal for us,
Yes, ma'am.
we'll look at what that needs to be.
And you mentioned the See Texas first, 10,979 leads. That's incredible. How do you determine it came from that site? Do you have a specific email address that if they email to that, you know that it came from
They
that?
actually get the insert, and then they can choose the cities they want information from, and so they send that to us,
Okay.
and then we add
It's
them
mailed
to our
in, or-
email list.
Excellent. Well, that's a great number. So thank you.
I also want to just say I think you're working with the Country Reporter,
Yes, we are.
and that was great to see in the news because I know that's well followed.
They were here actually for a story for the latest scoop. And I know Bob from past experience, Bob and Kelly both. They had worked with me when I was at the Texas Travel Industry Association, and so I stopped by and we had a good hour-long conversation about how we can work with them.
It's great to have them here. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Before she
Yes.
goes,
Yes, Harry.
I'd like to say just a real quick comment about the Texas Country Reporter. I was on the Convention and Visitors Bureau about 5 or 6 years ago and made the recommendation that we went that way. Unfortunately, the CVB decided to go in a different direction. So I'm pleased to see that we're back in that particular venue. It's something my wife and I watch every weekend. And of course, now that we're there, it was already on the advertisement. We were mentioned 3 times during that 30-minute period for that particular program. And I don't know how you get any better coverage than you do with that particular group. It reaches a lot of people in Texas. So
Well, the
thank
good
you.
thing about it is it's now national, so they are on RFD TV, I think, and so that has increased their viewership as well.
I think it's a good use of the money. Thank you.
Thanks, Diane. Michael Looney, you're up next.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Michael Looney, San Angelo Chamber of Commerce, VP of Economic Development. Going to do this is the first and second quarter look back. Mission of the Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Division, for those who are not familiar, the Chamber of Economic Development Division partners with and is contracted by the City of San Angelo Development Corporation to conduct marketing activities and to recruit employers, attract new jobs, and increase capital investment in the San Angelo area. Objectives. We utilize the San Angelo Regional Manufacturers Alliance, which I'll talk about in a little bit here in a second, as a recruitment platform. And this has really become kind of the new platform for the Economic Development Division of the Chamber. We target industries that are most compatible with San Angelo with guidance from these SARMA members. And these are your manufacturers, your fabricators, and your energy service companies. These companies are the types of companies that we want to attract more of, that we want to take care of, that are here. And these are the companies that are what they call primary employers. They're not necessarily retailers. These are companies that actually create the jobs where they're creating a service or a product in San Angelo and then exporting those products out of the region, sometimes even out of the country. We use this also as a BREP platform. So SARMA is used as a business retention and expansion platform where we reach out to existing energy service companies, fabricators, and manufacturers to gauge how they're doing. What risks are they seeing? What opportunities do they need our help with? And what kinds of programs can we assist with that will make their ability to grow and be sustained even better? SARMA members actually help us to recruit companies, which should be no really big surprise because with this organization, we've built trust relationships with these companies over time. And you'd be amazed at how many leads are generated, actionable leads are generated by relationships with these existing companies that we have already here in San Angelo. And I'll talk about that in just a second. And then we conduct San Angelo prospect tours and site visits, which many of you have seen us doing around town. And we also connect prospects with our other economic development partners, which is really important. It's not just the Chamber of Commerce. It's all of our economic development partners. So that's the City of San Angelo Development Corporation, SAISD, very important partner, Howard College, West Texas Training Center, Angelo State University, Concho Valley Workforce, Downtown San Angelo, Inc., and the SBDC, Small Business Development Center. And we do this, and we also market not just to energy service companies, which is kind of the trend, obviously, in this region and in the Permian Basin, but we also market to many other industries as well, where we have symbiotic relationships already with the industries that we've got. Namely, for example, is our medical device manufacturing sector that's here in San Angelo, and that also serves to attract other similar type companies. Recruit economic impacts. This is why we're here. We're here to recruit companies to San Angelo, and we're doing a good job of it. We're very, very thankful, very blessed with the opportunities that have been put forth to us, and we and our partners have, we think, done a really good job of capturing several of these companies. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. U.S. Well Services, this is an oil field services company. It's actually based out of Houston, but all of the work that they do, almost all of it, much of it is done in the Marcellus Play, which is up in Pennsylvania. They transferred 40 employees, hired 6 locally. They leased property on Arden Road, an 18,000 square foot facility, which used to be inhabited by Select Energy Services, and it had been off the market, had been vacant for over 2 years. Really good looking facility. Great to see that back in service. The direct annual salaries is $4,370,000 a year. Direct annual economic input through the software that we use gave us a number of 13 million, almost 14 million direct economic output per year. And again, when I give you these estimates, these are very conservative numbers. And the reason we run them in a conservative manner is because we don't know all of the different aspects of the financial yield of the company. We don't ask them, give us a full inventory list of all of the equipment that you're manufacturing or using on site. So we give it a pretty good estimate. And these are annual impacts. These aren't 3-year horizons or 10-year horizons, which are kind of far out to look at. Net tax benefit to San Angelo over 10 years is $2,162,000. Again, that's conservative. And the key partners, I like to mention our key partners that we're working with on different projects. SAISD and SARMA members were two of the real standouts. Concho Valley Workforce helped very much in helping us convey to this prospect just that we do have the workforce that's available, and we do have the support mechanisms in place for training, which is really important to them. And then, of course, the county was very helpful as well. I'd like to add on U.S. Well Services, because when they came to us and we started interviewing them to see what we could do to help them and to encourage them to choose San Angelo instead of some of the other cities that they were looking at, one of the things that we picked up on is that they were transferring people from Pennsylvania. And that's okay. We're happy to have newcomers. About half of those transferees were bringing their families. Interestingly enough, this particular company, many of the operations guys that are out in the field are from the island of Samoa. And almost all of them have very large families. 2 to 3, sometime one family had 5 children. So we figured out pretty quickly that education and integration into the school system was very important. And we were right. As we were working with them, we were put in touch with the wife of the operations director, who we found out was actually really in charge of the entire program, as you might guess. And she very quickly asked for information on the schools. We had Dr. Carl Detloff contact her, did it on a Friday night at about 9:20 at night. And then we subsequently have now designated an officer at SAISD, a guy named Derek Jackson, who's become a friend of ours, who is actually now our liaison to the school for corporations. It was very successful, and it was really interesting because Diane just talked about social media. As I friended Crystal, we were talking and chatting about San Angelo and why she should encourage her company, her husband's company, to consider us. And we saw her conversation about the schools happening with the other mothers of the children of the operations guys. And it was really, really special to see how social media had such an immediate impact. By 11:30 at night, we'd been contacted by the company saying, we've made our decision. And that was really, really powerful. And we really love to share that story. So again, SAISD is so important because we've got great facilities, we've got workforce training, but think about it. When you get orders to transfer someone, the first thing you look up are the schools. And what are my children going to be experiencing? Is it going to be some little cliquish West Texas city? No, not at all. And what SAISD told the U.S. Well Services team is we integrate so many children from the Goodfellow Air Force Base programs and so many thousands of kids cycle in and out that this is easy for us, and your children will be very happy and very confident, very comfortable with our school system, and it worked. SMC Global, this is a fairly recent recruit. This is an international chemicals manufacturer. We were in touch with them about 6 months ago, and the first order of business was they wanted to have a warehouse to ship their chemicals out into the Permian. This is a anti-friction, anti-corrosion chemical that they manufacture. They bring in the raw materials from all over the globe, a lot from China, and they mix it, and then they ship it. Over the period of time when we were working with them, it was really wonderful to see because they became so enamored with San Angelo. They decided they wanted to actually do 2 facilities. They would do actual mixing and distribution. They ended up leasing 2 facilities instead of just the one, a total of about 38,000 square feet, 2 facilities that had been vacant for a long time. They inhabited them. They've done a tremendous job of getting them up to code. They've gotten them really looking much more beautiful, much more street appeal. And the best thing is they're employing local San Angeloans. Direct economic output, $5 million. Net tax benefit to San Angelo over 10 years, about $1.6 million. Again, key partners, Coast City C, Mayor Gunner, Mayor's Office, San Angelo SARMA members, that's CV Workforce, and the City Permitting Office. And I wanted to throw out a comment. The City Permitting Office was outstanding with this project. It was a very fast-moving project. Once they'd made the decision that they wanted to be in San Angelo, it was on. I mean, there was no waiting. One of their operations directors actually moved from South Carolina to San Angelo over a weekend, and it was on. The City Permitting Office did an awesome job. We met with all of we actually held our own Development Review Committee meeting, our DRC, in pieces. We went to each individual office and asked them, what do we need to do? Here are the properties. And they came through and did a great job for us. So I wanted to make sure that that was noted. Here's some other recruitment prospects. I'm going to give you a couple updates. Project PAC, which is a large metal fabrication company seeking land for new construction. Approximately about 100,000 square foot facility that would employ, if successful, approximately 140 employees. We've done multiple San Angelo tours, and we have traveled to Houston along with the mayor's office to interview them and continue working on the project. Project Stocks is a steel auto parts manufacturer. They've toured San Angelo 3 times. I would like to also add that this company is owned by a gentleman who is originally from Mexico. He has a facility in El Paso. He has a much larger facility in Juarez City. And we did call upon SBDC, and Tony Villarreal, who is a chamber board member, was very helpful in actually translating for us, because there were a lot of technical terms and industrial terms that we did not know. And Tony jumped in and helped us to interpret and understand exactly what it was that this company is looking for. And they are also right now looking for a site. Project West is a national oil field components fabricator. They've toured San Angelo. Key partners, again, Convention Visitors Bureau, very helpful in letting the heads of this company understand the culture of San Angelo and what there is to do here. They were very confident in our industrial park and in the facilities that we have. Steve Eustace, who's a local real estate broker, was very, very instrumental in this. They have been working with him on a couple of different properties in the mayor's office as well. Project Canada and Project DeLong, these are 2 energy service companies, providers that are solar panel companies that have toured San Angelo several times respectively. We're working with both of them. They're going to be actually in the county, but very close to the city limits. They're not going to be really large job creators, but they are going to invest millions of dollars of infrastructure into the area. Project Home Care. They've toured San Angelo several times. This was the company that I came to in November with the request for a letter of support acknowledging the need for a skilled nursing facility, another skilled nursing facility in San Angelo. They are in the process now of site selection. We were told it would be a 48,000 square foot facility. Actually, that's been increased to 72,000. It'd be a $10 to $11 million facility. We are collaborating with Howard College, and one of the things that we really think help encourage this transaction to go on to the next stage, and we're very confident it's going to be successful, is that Howard College met with the 2 owners of the company, and they're not just merchant developers. They don't just build and move on. They build and they operate. And Howard College is going to be working with them on providing nurses for the skilled nursing facility from their LVN to RN program. And they actually have tuition reimbursement programs that they've done in other cities. They have 8 other locations throughout the United States, and it's very, very successful. Project Long Run is a Houston-based energy services company. This was a direct lead from a SARMA member, as was Project Roll, which is a coiled steel company from Chicago that we are still speaking with, and we are exploring a micro mill facility. And if If you have any questions about any of these, I'll be happy to answer them after the presentation. But I'm going to move on. SARMA, San Angelo Regional Manufacturers Alliance. This is the brochure that you have in front of you. This is a project that we started and kicked off officially in August of last year. And this has been a very, very powerful program. We're really, really proud of it. This is the trade association. This is the Manufacturers Association for San Angelo. It's run through the chamber. We currently have 110 member companies. We host monthly meetings and quarterly socials. We do have a website, sarma.us. We conduct regular company visits. Each month we go out and visit with approximately 10 to 12 companies to go visit them, to see how they're doing, to see what market opportunities they are seeing and what we can do to help them. This is producing steady lead generation. These are qualified leads. So what we've effectively done is we've built this army of enthusiasts about San Angelo. And these are companies that are here, whether this is the headquarters of their companies or whether they're just a division of a much larger company in San Angelo. They work with us very, very closely to help us to not just support the existing industrial base that's here in San Angelo, but to encourage other companies to come in. And it's working. There's really no better advocate for San Angelo's industrial base and for the quality of life that we have here and for the support that we have for our local manufacturers and energy service companies than other manufacturers and energy service companies. And it works very, very effectively. So what we do is we're fostering business-to-business collaboration. We're also getting local industry involved with higher education, with Howard College, with Angelo State University's engineering department. We're promoting networking between these regional manufacturers as well. I recall there was a city council member years ago who said we really should encourage more business-to-business collaboration on the industrial level, and that is what this is doing. So when we have our monthly SARMA meetings and our quarterly socials, it's amazing how many companies come together and say, you know, we've known of your company for years, but we never really linked up with you. We really never got to understand what it is you do and how we can work together. And now we're seeing examples of company-to-company collaboration. SARMA accomplishments. As I said, the program has been very, very impactful. Last year we won this, or actually in January I should say, we won the Spirit of San Angelo Award for Innovation. We've had socials at West Texas Industrial Engines and the David L. Hirschfeld Department of Engineering, and today we're actually having a social at the Trimble Bacher Insurance Office. We host our socials at different plants and factories throughout town. We want to showcase these SARMA members' operations, and so we don't just host them at the chamber. We host them, of course, at the different plants and operational factories. SARMA members are working directly with CV Workforce for training with the ACT program. You've heard a lot about that in recent months, the ACT Workforce program. We found this to be a very, very good tool. There's a lot of interest in it. Mike Buck and Randy Lecomte have been great supporters of this program, and we've seen a lot of buy-in from our local manufacturers who are actually using the program, where they're doing the evaluation and understanding how they can better create a better company for themselves, but also hire better people that are more suited for the positions that they've got. So the SARMA is doing its part with the ACT program. In other news, we've hosted listening sessions with Senator Charles Perry. This was something that several SARMA members are very concerned about, some state regulations that were impacting their business. So Senator Charles Perry came in and listened to the requests from about 10 SARMA members. We discussed the state of manufacturing. We reviewed EPA TCEQ regulations, the Texas Manufacturers Assistance Program, and tariffs. We also discussed workforce needs, transportation, and recent Permian Basin activity. Industry outreach. In April, along with Wendland Tank Manufacturing Company, we exhibited a booth at the West Texas Alliance of Energy Producers. This was their annual expo in Wichita Falls. We created dozens of new industry links with companies that we're now in touch with, that we followed up with, that some of them have actually traveled to San Angelo to come and visit, to see the facilities and understand how they can use San Angelo as a launch pad into the Permian Basin. On ongoing initiatives, we do have monthly technical advisory committee meetings with the SARMA. We host the socials, as I just mentioned. We host monthly Economic Development Advisory Board and Economic Development Executive Committee meetings. We conduct industry advocacy meetings, legislative, TCEQ, TxDOT, city permitting, and planning. And we're planning regional manufacturing days and a SARMA Expo that's coming up. Ongoing initiatives continued. We are working on creating an agricultural version of SARMA. We've dubbed it the Pharma. We're not exactly sure what it's going to be called, but it's going to use the same model as the San Angelo Manufacturers Alliance. We are also finding that this is a very successful formula for the recruitment of new companies to our area. And we also have produced the first of 4 industry and San Angelo industrial sector recruitment videos, and I think we have one queued up to play here in a second. This is the first of 4, and these are about 3-minute long videos that we use to promote industry in San Angelo. And I don't see it queuing up. I'm not sure if we're alive or not, but that's what it looks like when you see it in action.
We don't need to play it.
How do I play it?
You know what's great is I noticed on the tax report for the month of June that manufacturing went up from 4.3% in 2017 up to 6.3%, and so it's good to see the impact of that.
We are we're really feeling that also just anecdotally through the comments that we hear from the different SARMA members, and really realize we're seeing that they're needing more employees, more training, and bigger facilities.
The good news is these empty buildings are going to be occupied. It won't add that much more to our property tax levels, but it's good to have them full. And with their success, they're expanding, so hopefully that will have some positive impact on property tax down the road.
It is. In fact, one of the companies that we recently recruited, SMC Global, has already informed us that they think they've probably already outgrown their existing space and need to find more of it to construct. So these are good problems to have. They're great challenges. We're finding that more industry continues to get more attracted to San Angelo. We think that the SARMA program is a really powerful formula for doing that. And at the next presentation, we'll queue up the video so that you can see it. But I really appreciate your time and really appreciate the support that you all give the Chamber of Commerce. We're out there every day supporting our local industry and recruiting companies. And I've met with several of you individually. Councilman Hebert, Mayor Gunner, and Lucy Gonzalez, Councilwoman Gonzalez, have been instrumental in helping us to secure these companies, and so we thank you very much for all that you do for us.
I thank you for doing the pharma thing because I don't want us to be singularly focused on one industry only, because that industry tends to have a lot of highs and lows, and we need to have a better balance in our overall economy. So I think we need to continue to focus on other issues, but we're thankful for the incredible impact that SARMA has had.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Lucy.
I just wanted to comment and thank you so much for keeping me updated in my district and taking the time to go show me where the building was and what it was all about. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're very welcome.
Thank you
all very much.
Good work, Michael. Appreciate it.
We will now move on to item B, public hearing and first reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 4 of the Code of Ordinances establishing Article 4.11, vacant buildings, and amending Appendix A, Article 2.0, building and construction-related fees, creating a vacant and/or boarded building certificate fee. And Chief Brian Dunn, no. It looks like it's John James instead.
Both of us, but I'll be handling the presentation, and the chief is here if there are questions specific to his part in the process. I'm going to go through some of this pretty quickly, but feel free to stop me if you have questions. I wanted to first start and talk about the Vacant Property Task Force. Back in 2014, the city established a Vacant Property Task Force that included folks from planning, fire marshal, basically all of the departments that have any sort of role, as well as outside entities like downtown San Angelo. And that group put together a series of recommendations. And so I'm going to just quickly go through those. They established or identified some incentive policies. These are all the task force recommendations of things that the city could do to help address a concern about vacant buildings, particularly in the downtown, but really throughout the community. So things like tax abatements and those sorts of things. Also, what we could do with education and help market buildings that may be vacant. one of the elements that they looked at was ordinance updates, and that's where we are today is the vacant building registration program.
You know, one of the things I think we need to be clear on as we start this presentation is vacant is, you know, there's an issue of vacant and there's an issue of vacant and dangerous.
Yes.
Sometimes vacant buildings are very well kept, but they're not occupied. But they're not dangerous and they don't deteriorate the overall look of San Angelo, although we'd like to have them full. But I want to make sure we don't, vacant and dangerous are two separate issues.
Right, and this ordinance actually deals with the vacant buildings and helps ensure that they don't become dangerous buildings. We do, as noted here, we do have a bit dangerous building code. One of the group's recommendations was to look at that dangerous building code and for possible updates for it as well. We used to have a nuisance abatement team where multiple departments would look at a particular building or a particular block and try to address concerns in that area. One thing that we want to look at bringing back to you is property maintenance code. One of the things that we learned throughout this process of the vacant building ordinance was that there are some things that the group wanted to have happen. And originally we thought maybe this vacant building ordinance could do that in terms of ensuring properties are adequately maintained. You'll see when I get into the ordinance that there are some elements of that, but some of the things that we think might be helpful would require a property maintenance code. But that's a topic for another day, but that is something that the task force recommended. Then they also talked about some aesthetic things, one of which is a landscaping ordinance. The other is maybe helping to reinstitute the Keep San Angelo Beautiful program. So now to the ordinance itself that we're here to talk about today. Why a vacant building ordinance? Basically, vacant buildings are potential sites for problems, basically illegal activity, increased risk of fire, other health and safety kinds of concerns. They also can reduce property values of businesses around them. So in the downtown, for example, we don't want to see a business come in and make a huge investment into a building downtown only to have the building next door falling apart and detracting from everybody around it. Another issue we sometimes have is just locating who's the owner or who's responsible for a building. So this registration program will help us identify that as well. So basically what it does in a nutshell is require the registration of vacant buildings, both to identify them and who the owners are, and also charge a fee to help recuperate our costs for managing this program. So what's in the ordinance, it defines what vacant is. That would be any building that's basically not been occupied for 90 days. Only one registration is required, even if it's multiple buildings, or if there are multiple street addresses, just one registration would be required, not one for each individual building. So are there exceptions? Yes, definitely. If a building is under construction, if a building has an active building permit, if it's actively being marketed, although you'll note that once it's been marketed for more than 12 months, they would still have to register. So if a building becomes vacant, they basically get, instead of 90 days, they get a full year. But if at the end of the year they're still vacant, they would have to register. They're also exempted if there's extreme weather or fire damage, again for 1 year. And this also exempts all 1- and 2-family dwellings. So single-family homes would not be impacted by this ordinance. I'm not going to read through all of these. This is just a list of what the application requires. But again, part of the idea is finding out who is responsible for the property if something were to happen on the property, as well as identifying their timeline for correcting any code violations that may exist on the property. As part of the registration, they will get a vacant building certificate, which is valid for the calendar year. If there's a change of ownership, the new owner would then have to reapply, and a certificate of occupancy on the building would basically make the vacant building certificate go away because now it's an occupied building.
Now, is there a fee? Are we asking them to pay a fee for registration?
Yes, and that's the slide we've got. It's not a high fee, but there is a fee involved. Although subsequent years it's a lower fee actually. The ordinance does authorize the city, particularly the fire marshal's office, to inspect properties. Again, one of the issues with vacant properties is not being adequately secured, possible fire risk, and those sorts of things. The ordinance does require security of the building, so doors have to be locked, windows have to either be, an actual window there or boarded up. This will work hand in hand with our boarded buildings ordinance. This doesn't address that particular ordinance, but there's already an ordinance that addresses those kinds of issues. It also looks at accumulations of combustible and flammable materials. One of the problems we have with some of the vacant buildings, particularly in the downtown, is they're being used for storage of significant amounts of things that could be combustible or flammable. And again, in a context like the downtown, where buildings are literally adjacent to each other, that can be particularly problematic. Electrical equipment and wiring must be properly maintained. Again, that's a risk of fire that we want to ensure that all electrical wiring is maintained up to code, and all of the fire protection features, including sprinkler systems, if they have them. This wouldn't require a vacant building to put in a sprinkler system, but if they have it, it has to be maintained in good working order. There is a requirement for general liability and property insurance as well, as an element of ensuring that if anything does happen, that those properties, if they impact surrounding properties, would have appropriate insurance. They also must install a key box for fire department access to the building if necessary. So here are the fees. It's basically based on the size of a building. You can see here 150, 200, or for very large buildings, it would be 200 plus 50 per additional 500 square feet, but not to exceed 750. So the initial registration fee would be somewhere between 150 and 750. For most buildings, at least in the downtown, for example, it would be on that lower end, because those buildings aren't terribly large in general. Accessory structures, individual accessory buildings, storage buildings would also have to be registered at $50 each. And it's not on the slide here, but this is for the initial registration. For subsequent years, the fee would be half of what the initial fee is. So if initially you paid $200, when you renewed the following year, it would be $100. That's a quick overview. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
I have questions from council. Billy? Lane? Lucy? Harry?
Just a real quick comment. First of all, I'll say thank you. I know this has been a long time coming. Downtown Association, the Fire Marshal's Office, and the Planning Department. It's something I've been working on since I've been for 2 years since I've been here. A number of the buildings in District 3 are historic buildings. They're older buildings, and some of those buildings have not been kept up. So in some cases, they are at risk. Sometimes we've got vagrants living in these particular buildings, and they ultimately cause some additional damage. So I think this is a step in the right direction. Hopefully this will help us get these buildings back on the market, back on the tax rolls at what they're supposed to be, and I applaud you for what you've been doing. Thank you.
Tom? Okay, here, Tommy.
Yes, ma'am. This may be a little far afield, the question, but I've had a couple of situations where people have wanted to do something to their property only to find out that unbeknownst to them, some things were not done that should have been done. Platting, replatting, that sort of thing, the proper sign-offs were not obtained, and then it causes them problems. Does that may be the wrong question to ask at this time, but does this include making them aware if we know that they're going to be doing something to the building and some of these things need to be taken care of before they can get an ultimate, certificate of occupancy, of completion, whatever?
This ordinance doesn't really address anything of that sort, although we do have a process. We have a consultation that will meet with someone even before they purchase a building. they can come to us, and many people do this. They can come to us and say, what do I need to know about this particular property? And we'll talk about the zoning, we'll talk about building code issues that we may know of. In some cases, we can even have a building inspector go walk through the building with them to say, here are some things you need to pay attention to if there are plating issues. All of those things we can identify ahead of time, either before they purchase it or once they've purchased it, to know what they're getting into. So I think we do a good job of answering those questions. One of the problems we have is people don't always come and ask us those questions, and so they learn of a problem when we do, when they're far down the road in a project. So we strongly encourage anyone who's looking at opening a business or developing a project to come to us early on and ask those questions.
Thanks.
How are we, I think from the beginning I have a concern about how we're going to get and asking someone to register to pay a fee that their building is vacant. How are we even going to begin the process of getting people to come to you to pay a fee to register the building as a vacant building?
Well, in the downtown, for example, downtown San Angelo has done a good job of identifying those vacant buildings for us. And so I think that would be the first step, is the buildings we are already aware of, we would start to go to them, send out notices, or just go in person to say, hey, there's this new ordinance, you need to register. And from there, we would just expand it out. As we learn of buildings that are vacant, we would continue to move down that path.
And so they'll be paying a fee every year?
Yes, again, the first fee is a little bit higher, then it's half the fee for subsequent years, but again, that's to help cover the cost of particularly the fire marshal's office that will be doing inspections of these properties periodically to ensure that they're complying, as well as just the process of registering anyway, all the paperwork and that sort of thing.
Okay, so year 2, it would go down to a structure 2,500 square feet to $75. Then what happens in year 3?
It would be $75 each subsequent year, as long as it remains vacant. Part of the idea here, at least from the task force recommendation, was that in fact their recommendation was to have much higher fees. They wanted the fee to be somewhat punitive in order to encourage vacant buildings to go into productive use. One of the problems that was a concern of the task force is we know there are some owners, they've had offers on their buildings, they're just sitting on them. There are people that would love to buy the building and put something in there, but the owners are just holding on to the building for whatever reason. And so part of the idea was, if we make this super high fee, that would encourage them to do something with the building. But as you know, our fees can only be charged based on recovering the cost that we actually expend to do the program. And so that's why these numbers are the values that they are.
I still go back to the question of vacant, well-kept, vacant, and dangerous. Because I would think that vacant, well-kept would have different penalties than vacant and dangerous, because we've summed them all into one great big pot and said you're all equal, and they're not all equal. Some buildings are empty, well-kept, don't have a negative impact. Some of them have a huge negative impact, and they're not paying any higher fee than those that are well-maintained.
Well, we do have a separate dangerous building process that's already in place. So if a building is vacant but not dangerous, they just will go through this process. If they're vacant and also dangerous, they'll not only have to go through this process, they'll have to go through the dangerous building process, which has its own fees and application and stricter monitoring by various folks like the fire marshal's office. So that it will be a higher fee.
Okay, thank you. Harry, you had a question or comment?
I just want to make clarification. The mayor indicated that in subsequent years, it's half the fee for, as we go through that. That is until that particular building changes ownership. Then it goes back to an original fee for that first year for that new owner. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understood that.
Yes, Tom.
John, if I was to purchase a building from Harry, and let's say it was vacant, and I purchase it in for commercial development, at that point in time, I'm going to have to assume a vacant status, correct?
Yeah.
I think so. Now, if you purchase it and you're ready to move on a development, once you start, if you go in and apply for building permits and all of that, then that's one of the exceptions. So then you would have additional time that you wouldn't actually have to register, as long as you're doing work on the building or have an active building permit or one of those exceptions that was listed.
Another one I have is, and I'm trying to think the best way to ask this question. When we say vacant, do we mean vacant, of storage, or vacant of people? Or I could have a building, and depending upon our definition of vacant, I could put things in it and it not be? Because in my district, I think I've got lots of houses and houses on 2-acre plots that have a building or a back structure back there that is probably vacant, that would probably fall under some of the, if we have a new code enforcement person that would probably look at it and go, you've got a nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath, you've got your property over here that's less than 50% of the size, but by the way, you do have a vacant structure you inherited when you purchased this property.
Well, again, now, single-family homes are exempted from this anyway.
Single-family home, it's all the way out.
But yes, our definition of vacant is that it has not been lawfully occupied or has not had water and electric service. So I think
So that water and electric service is part of the issue to that question.
But I think if it's a building intended for retail, for example, but it's just being used to store a bunch of stuff, that would still qualify as vacant because it's not occupied, by people.
Just driving here this morning, and I'll ramble off here on a tangent. I'll try not to take too much time. I see a lot of buildings that probably need to come down. In my neighborhood, and we get down North Chadbourne, there are buildings there that I don't know why they haven't taken them. Is it easier to sell a block without a building on it? Is it easier to sell a building? You can literally see a crack down the center of it, and you're thinking, well, because of this one, the shape of this one, I don't want to continue it and look for something here. So I'm all in favor of this, Harry. I commend you for bringing it forward. I do think we'll see some headaches with it going forward, but I think it's something that needs to happen.
Further questions? With no further questions, is this one we don't take any motion on it? I don't believe it's just the first hearing and first reading of an ordinance, or do you need a vote?
It does. We do need to hold a public hearing, and you will need to make a motion.
So do I have a motion to accept the information on this ordinance as presented?
Move to approve as presented.
A second.
I'll second.
Any public comment?
Good morning, Lawlene McClellan-Thee. Just a comment about this. It sounds like to me from the things that Mr. James was mentioning as far as wanting to monitor through this ordinance, that there are already ordinances on the books that would address those issues for vacant or non-vacant buildings. So that's one question I have. Do we have these ordinances that we're just not enforcing on particular properties? Another,
I think the answer to that question, John, do you want to address it? Because I think we have a dangerous building ordinance, but we don't have a vacant building ordinance.
And that's exactly right. Now we can deal with it if it gets so bad that it becomes dangerous. But if it's simply vacant, we don't have any ordinances or tools in place to address that.
and another question that I have is, should such an ordinance be put in place, what additional staff are we looking at to actually enforce that and monitor those things?
John, do you want to answer that?
I think at this point, we believe that this can be done with the existing staff. I know as we discussed this through the process with the fire marshal's office, there was some discussion of depending on how far out we go and how, if there are like 10 times as many vacant buildings as we thought, that might result in some future requests. But at this point, this is not tied to any requests for additional staffing or anything.
Thank you. Do I have further public comment? No.
Going back to, John, a building that is for sale, can you clarify on that for me one more time?
Yes, if it's, let's say it had a business in it, and then the business went away, and now the property is vacant and for sale, rather than the 90 days, they would have a full year to market and try to sell that building before they would have to register.
All in favor of passing the vacant building ordinance, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item C, public hearing and first reading of an ordinance for case SU 18-01, a special use to allow for the placement of a manufactured home on a 2.5-acre property zoned ranch and estate located at 5333 South Gas Plant Road. And John, you're on.
Thank you. This is property, you can see the location here on the map on Gas Plant Road. This is a property that had an existing manufactured home. In fact, it had a mobile home, got a permit to replace it with a manufactured home. That never happened, so now they've come back again to replace that existing with a manufactured home. It is industrially zoned, you can see, the future land use is industrial, but the zoning is ranch and estate. As you may recall, in the last year or two, we brought you an ordinance that addressed manufactured homes, and one of those elements was replacement of an existing manufactured home. The requirements basically are that it must comply with all of these things, but the big one is here. It must have a value equal to or greater than the taxable median value of the single-family homes within 500 feet. So basically, if the manufactured home you're bringing in is valued at the average or higher of the homes around it, then that is a factor that can allow a manufactured home in an area that would not otherwise allow them. But again, it's only to replace one that was already there. You know, if it's a vacant lot or a single-family home lot, you couldn't replace that and bring in a manufactured home. This is only for replacement of an existing. This is the information provided by the applicant on all of the properties around it, and you can see of those properties, the median value is $53,000. This property with the manufactured home would have a value of $90,000, is what their appraisal was. We did send out notices around, did not receive any responses, but you can see the yellow are the other single-family dwellings within the area. You can see here the properties that were notified. Again, no opposition to the request. Staff did recommend approval, as did the Planning Commission. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Tommy, it's in your district. Do you have any questions or comments?
No, I know. I went out there and looked. I think this would be a good move.
Do you have any other questions or comments from council members? So do I have a motion?
I'd move approval of this
And
request,
a second?
ma'am.
All in favor, say, public comment, please. With no public comment, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item D, first public hearing and consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 10, Traffic Control, Article 10.03, Operation of Motor Vehicles, Section 10.03.035, Lake Nasworthy and Twin Buttes by amending the speed limit on a portion of Camper Road around Spring Creek Marina from 20 miles per hour to 10. And Carl, you're on.
Earlier this year, the manager of the Spring Creek Marina, they've been running a successful operation out there, approached the city with a formal request for us to consider reducing the speed limit around the marina from 20 miles per hour to 10 miles per hour. The primary reason for this is for safety. We took this request to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and they recommended approval of reducing the speed limit from 20 miles per hour to 10 in that section, and staff also recommends approval. Looking out, far out to show where this is located, this is out at Lake Nasworthy at Spring Creek Marina, Spring Creek Park. You notice the horseshoe, and this is where the boat races are. Zooming in, this is the section of the road that is requested to have the speed limit reduced. There's Spring Creek Marina, also the boat ramp that was constructed there. It doesn't show on this aerial image. That has also increased traffic out there. The Thule Princess steamboat is located there, and that has also increased traffic out there. This is on a bend of the road, so because of the activity that's out there, the bend of the road, we see the need for reducing the speed limit.
Tommy, again, it's in your district. Do you have any comment on this?
Only comment, if none of the council has been out there on a holiday weekend, you ought to go sometime. It is packed out there. And I'm assuming this is really what the need is when there are lots of people. There may be throughout the week a need too, but on holidays, it is packed out there. You know, since we have the sign off, it says in our report, you know, Parks and Recreation Operations, Engineering Services, and the Lake Police folks have agreed that this is a good thing too. So I'm in full agreement, Mayor.
Okay. Do I have any other comments or questions from council?
I have
Can I
a question.
exclude?
Oh,
Can
go
I
ahead, Lucy.
Can I exclude my family out of any of the speed limit violations? Go ahead.
Have y'all got a problem?
Lucy has a question. Carl, do you have a lot of problems? I mean, does the police have to issue a lot of speeding tickets from going 20 miles an hour? Or has there been accidents with any pedestrians, any bicyclists?
I have not heard of accidents. Ray Broadway is here, the manager and the operator of the Spring Creek Marina. He may know of some, but when we talked with the police, they didn't notice that they didn't report that there had been a lot of accidents or injuries. But with the congestion, with so many people out there, it just seems.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to say, that when it is packed like that, they're probably already going 10 miles an hour. I just believe that going to 20 is kind of too slow and sometimes people get a little crazy, but I just think when there is something going on out there, everybody's already going 10 miles an hour. And so that would be my recommendation, that I would leave it alone. But that's what I'm saying. That's why I wanted to
Lucy,
know.
you'd be surprised. And there are a lot of children in that particular area. A lot.
When it's packed,
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people. I mean, that's why I asked about the accidents, if there were a lot of, if there even were any.
Even in the straight stretch, we have people going across to the docks from the marina. That's also a concern.
Any other questions, comments? Now's the time to ask a question. Any other further?
We brought this forward because this particular stretch, on the weekends and holidays, majority of the vehicles are towing and going in reverse. And we've had a lot of close calls out there. And it's something that the public lot comes to us inside and says, hey, can't you slow them down? Can't you slow them down? They're going 20, that is the speed limit. There's been a lot of close calls out there. We put slow down signs out there which have been run over as well. It's very tight right here, and there's a lot of traffic that goes up and down that road. And it's very, to access the water from here, clear over to here, that whole bend, you have to cross the road on foot. You have to cross the road. And the weekends, there's a lot of little kids that are shorter than most pickups. If you sit out there in front of our store, you can hear the brakes being applied, people, yelling, watch out, slow down. But when we have talked to the police, and they've been out there, they're going 20. It's just that crowded. There's not that much room, not much room for error. I personally don't think it's a matter of if it's going to happen. I think it's when it's that packed, because this area here now is a new boat dock. Everybody's going backwards. Everybody is just in reverse right there. There's not enough parking for most of the boats right there, so they park on the side of the road. The roads get really, really narrow, and the kids are walking between all them vehicles. The chances of being missed, it's pretty high.
Thank you. Do I have a motion from council?
I'd move approval, Mayor.
I have a second.
Second.
Public comment?
Mayor, before you vote, I'd
Yes.
like to point out that the other thing that this ordinance does is we looked at it since we were already modifying this section, and we removed all of the provisions that related to Twin Butte since we do not have any authority to regulate out there. So if you look at the ordinance document itself, you'll notice a lot of strikeouts, and that's the purpose of those.
Okay, thank you for that comment. No other further public comment? Then we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Motion passes 6-1. Yeah, gotcha.
I'm so used to saying
Bumps an exclusion in on that, or did that?
Can cars actually go only 10 miles per hour?
My son could do 70 on that.
Just asking. Yeah.
It's hard to go 10.
I know, it's hard to go 10. Okay, item E, public hearing and first reading of an ordinance granting to Atmos Energy Corporation, a Texas and Virginia corporation, a franchise to construct, maintain, and operate pipelines and equipment in the city of San Angelo, Tom Green County, Texas, for the transportation, delivery, sale, and distribution of gas in, out of, and through said city for all purposes. Russell, you're on.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Give you a quick overview. What I'm going to be going over is kind of the reason for this ordinance and some key points, our financial impacts from this, and then staff's recommendation. It's pretty straightforward. This is just an agreement with Atmos Energy that we're renewing. The current agreement that we have with them has expired, but we've been working on this agreement for quite some time now, and we finally have something to bring forward to council that we both agreed on. Just our key points on this agreement are we're extending this agreement for another 20 years. And it outlines maintenance requirements on both parties for Atmos and the city. During those activity operations, if the city or Atmos damages either party's line, either party will repair those mains at no cost to the individual that caused it. That's been our standard practice since we've had this agreement, with the previous agreement, and we're just moving forward with that same standard practice. Some of the other details regarding maintenance activities, if Atmos digs up their main in our city right-of-way or in our right-of-way, they are required to repair that patch or that cut at city standards and specifications. Also, during our capital improvement projects, the city is required to notify Atmos Energy as well as any other franchise utility, if there's going to be any type of conflicts or things of that nature, to coordinate with them the relocation of those utilities at that time. And we've been doing that with our Bell Street, MLK, just our different projects that we've been working on already, but we're going to continue those efforts. Another provision that we've included in this agreement is if Atmos gets a service request from a customer and that street has been rehabbed, or been replaced within the last 2 years, we're going to, it's a requirement of Atmos to bore that service line or that main replacement instead of actually cutting our street, or at least we're not going to allow them to do that within that first 2 years of that street being rehabbed. Another item that we changed was the franchise fee. We're increasing that fee from 4% to 5% of Atmos's gross revenues per year. And just what we're anticipating that to look like is approximately $200,000 per year that'll go towards the general fund. With that, our recommendation is to approve this ordinance and open this up to public comment.
Let me ask you a question. So these are the pipelines. These aren't the, quote, gas meters that someone's trying to move from the back of the buildings to the front of a building in the downtown area?
Any infrastructure that the Atmos Gas has within public right-of-way. So if it's a meter or if it's a service line or their mains, yes, it includes all of that, encompasses all of that.
My question is, does that mean that they would be allowed to move the meters from the back of a building all to the front of the buildings? Because that's a really ugly eyesight, And we don't want those things coming forward to the front of the buildings.
That's more of a standard practice of Atmos. You know, we don't necessarily dictate where their meters, or we didn't dictate where that goes in this agreement, if it goes in the front or in the back.
We don't want them in the front in the downtown area.
Okay, well, I mean, a lot of places in the downtown area don't have an alley, don't have the means to put it in the back.
If they exist in the back of a building today, that's where they're at, right?
Great.
So that would mean they obviously had an alley or some way to put it there.
That's correct.
We don't want those moved to the front of the buildings in the downtown area.
Teresa, we protected with that. I mean, as far as the comment the mayor's making at this point, we do have, as far as the franchise fee agreement that allows for basically lease of a right-of-way. But looking at the agreement as it's written at this point, does that protect us from having a situation such as that happening in the future?
I was just looking at the agreement itself, and I don't see any specific language that addresses that condition. It does have language in here that talks about if we require them to make changes, then we may have to cost share or pay for some of those changes. But again, as Russell said, a lot of that discussion about where they're actually placing those facilities comes about as they're doing the construction. But there is nothing that I see in here that prohibits them from moving those to the front of the building.
We need to have some provision to keep those from being in the front of buildings in the downtown area.
Okay, well, I mean, we can take it back to them. I mean, we'd have to go back to them with this agreement to revise that.
I mean, I would assume that there would have to be a big reason for them to want to move them today from the back to the front.
Right. I mean, and that's usually there's a lot more costs involved for them to do that because they typically are having to reroute service lines and things of that nature. So typically they put them back where they were. If they were in the front of the building, they put them back in the front. If they were in the rear, they typically put them in the rear.
Well, it's come up several times in the downtown area about the people that those are trying to get moved to the front of the buildings, and we cannot have them in the front of the buildings. Harry, please.
I have to agree with the mayor on this one, and I have to say very much so. We're spending a lot of money and effort to try to make sure that we've got other utilities that are out of sight, out of mind as we improve the downtown area. We certainly can't have gas meters sitting in the front of a building when we're trying to make it go back to a historic type look. So we've got to do whatever we've got to do in that case. If that means making some changes to this particular thing before we vote on it, then I have to agree with the mayor. We've got to do that. We've got to find some type of way that we're protected and the property owners are protected. That it's on this one or if it's on another ordinance, whatever the case may be, that's what's got to be done.
Okay. I mean, I know there are some provisions that they can do to hide those meters. You know, they can put planters, you know, things of that nature. You know, that's something that we could look at as well.
The building owners should not have to spend extra money to hide it.
No, not for the building owner, for Atmos to put it on there. To put it there.
We need to relook at that ordinance. We need to have a further conversation on this.
So just so I'm clear, we want to look at it for just the downtown area or historic areas or all across town?
Well, for me specifically, it's a downtown area. I've not heard from other areas whether that's an issue or not, but for downtown it definitely is. Now, I don't know about
Two provisions that I am reading in here is that they shall lay, maintain, construct, and operate and replace pipes, mains, laterals, and other equipment as to comply with the ordinance, rules, and regulations of the city that are not in conflict with this ordinance. And then also there's provisions here related to the location of all mains, pipes, laterals, and other equipment shall be fixed under the supervision of the city or as an authorized representative. If there's a conflict between the location of proposed facilities and the location of existing facilities or other users of the public right-of-way that can otherwise be resolved, the city or an authorized agent of the city shall resolve the conflict and determine the location of respective facilities within the public's right-of-way. So there are some provisions in here that we can adopt rules, and also that if there is a conflict that Russell has some discretion to help resolve those issues.
So you feel, Teresa, confident that should there be an attempt to move those to the front of a building, that we have the ability to stop that?
I feel confident that this language gives us some authority to do that, but in my experience working with public utilities in general, it's often a fight at any point that that happens, if they are doing something that they believe is in their best interest, particularly their best financial interest. But this does give us the ability to pass rules, as well as Russell the authority to determine the final location.
So you
But again, that would happen during the process of them wanting to move facilities.
Okay,
So yes, there is protections in here for us.
Okay, that's what I need to know. Thank
Okay,
you.
sorry I didn't have a direct answer for that.
But we got her here.
That's right.
She's good.
She is.
Okay, so with that, do I have any further questions or comments from council? Okay, do I have a motion?
Move to approve as presented.
Second? Do I have public comment? Good morning.
Morning.
Kelly Burnett with Atmos Energy. And I just was going to let you guys know, I think some of the issues that we've had in the downtown area is because we had old curb meters. So if they're in the front of the building, it's because those curb meters are obsolete. Okay? So we will not be able to maintain them going forward. Okay? So we will have to move those to the front of the building. Now, the customer can choose not to have gas service. If we're able to do it in the back, if there's mains, we're certainly happy to accommodate when we can. And so it's not like we want to just put every meter on the front in the downtown area. And I know we've looked at certain streets and we've had meetings about, Dale was actually at some of the meetings that we've had about these. And so in the opportunities that we can, then unless there's some big financial reason, and it would have to be large, then we'll try to accommodate as best we can.
So what
We
you're
like to partner
yeah.
with the city and work alongside you guys as well as we can.
So you're saying if it's currently in the back of a building, you're not looking to move it forward?
We're replacing pipe throughout the whole city. And so where those mains are, unless there's some reason we can't put it back, then yes, we'll look at putting it back where it is. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions for me?
Thank you, Shelley. Further public comment? With no further public comment, we will take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item F, second reading and adoption of an ordinance amending Article 2.07, Boards, Committees, and Commissions. Teresa James, you're on. And this is in enacting term limits.
Right, I was asked to put this back on the regular agenda. This is proposing the term limits on this particular board. And so I guess I just have the question, does anybody have any questions or concerns or comments to make?
Well, we should just note that originally first presented it was 2 years, 2 terms, and we've asked to have that changed to 2 terms, 3 years.
Okay.
And so that's what item F would be voting on, having 2 3-year terms for COSA-DC.
So to do that, we would need a motion for somebody to make the motion to change the 2-year, 2 terms to the 3-year, 2 terms? Is that what you want? Okay.
Yes.
Tommy and I were talking a little bit earlier. This is kind of one of those boards that goes along with city council hand in hand. Why not making it to match our term limits, 2 and 4? That way some board members would be along with some of the main goals that the city of San Angelo is going through, and to have some knowledge of some existing contracts that are going on.
I would
Tommy, you can
also say, just from having served 2 different times on the Development Corporation, it doesn't happen often, but there can be a time when you do need your institutional knowledge on there. Sometimes an economic development project is a long time developing and then a long time coming to fruition, and then there are other things that happen after that. I think it's important to have that historical knowledge. three two-year terms is okay, but in my opinion, I think it would be better if we had either 2 4-year terms or 4 2 4-year terms or 4 2-year terms, just for the 8 years that, and then it could mirror what the council has now under our new.
I think most of our boards, there's only one other board that has the 4-year terms. And so traditionally, most of the boards are 2 3-year terms. And so for me, it's sticking with what the majority of all of our boards are. And I think there's no reason to make a change on this one compared to the rest of the boards. And I also think that it also allows city council members to have an opportunity to put their own nominee on the board. And I think that's very important because too often we have the same people. We live with people that we don't have nominated. And so I think this makes sure that council members have an opportunity to influence a board.
Just for clarification, oh, sorry, Brenda.
Yes.
May I speak?
Yes, Harry.
Just for clarification from the city's clerk's department, remind us how many boards and commissions that we've got people on and what those terms are as we go through it, because I am a little confused listening to what I hear council say is because my memory may not be as good as some people, but 3 years is not the standard on a lot of these.
For instance, the Airport Advisory Board has 4-year terms. We do have many that have 2-year terms. Looks like the Animal Services Advisory Committee, those are 2-year terms, as well as currently COSA DC. Civic Event Advisory Board is 3-year terms. 3-year terms for Civil Service Commission, 2 years for Construction Board of Adjustment and Appeals, 2-year for Design and Historic Review Commission, 3-year terms for Fort Concho.
I guess my point really is this. We're making a change here. I would like to get consistent of all our boards and commissions eventually so that we've got everybody understands that they're, whatever that number is. We want to get 2-year terms, so many, but we need to get to term limits and specific terms on every board and commission. So whatever decision that we make today, I would like to see that as a standard as we go forward and make all those particular changes.
I'm going to make a motion to have the COSA DC term be 2 3-year terms. And that's the motion. Do I have a second? Do I have any public comment? With no public comment, we'll take a vote on amending the COSA DC term limits to 2 3-year terms. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Number G is the update on sales tax performance by Tina.
Good morning, Mayor, Council, Mr. Valenzuela. Tina Diersky, Director of Finance. I have a quick update for you on sales tax revenue. Sales tax revenue is up again in the month of June compared with the month of June for last year by 4.82%. Our collections for this month were about $100,000 over our original budget for June, and year to date we're over budget for our sales tax revenue by just over $1.1 million. And here's your chart that shows your sales tax by industry. Retail is up and general services is up. Those were probably biggest ones, but as you mentioned earlier, your manufacturing is up as well, so that's good to
What's
see.
in miscellaneous? Because that's one of the biggest increases.
That I did not write
Everything
down.
else, Mayor.
I wrote down general
No, but
services.
what is everything else? Because it's got a big increase. We ought to know.
I'm sorry, I don't have the answer for you right this minute. I did write down what was in general services and professional services, but I didn't catch that one, so sorry about that.
It's got to be one.
But I can
in
have
every
that
group.
answer for you next month.
Good. Because it's growing.
It is.
You know, I think when
Well,
you
the
take,
miscellaneous is actually decreased, it looks like, by quite a bit.
well, miscellaneous, yeah, is June. I'm sorry, it's the other way. It's
Yes,
June is
ma'am.
way down. So what is miscellaneous? Because it has a huge impact on us.
Yes, it could be a reallocation too. Sometimes they have some of the businesses misclassified in the miscellaneous, and then we contact them and let them know, hey, this should really be in this general class or in food or retail or what have you. And so there are corrections that are made for that as well. So it could be due to something like that. So, but I will check on that and I'll let you know next month.
So what we would primarily say is that the oil and gas industry, based off of these numbers, has had a very positive impact on our tax revenue, but the overall general business climate is steady but not great.
We remain optimistic.
I think the numbers will keep us
cautiously,
because we're going to come up against some big increases in July, August, and September.
Yeah. And I think with the
So-
increase this month of being 4.8%, you know, it's steadily declined a little bit each month. And so maybe we're starting to level out where we're going to see those increases steadily decrease a little bit and just even out back to where we were before we started seeing the increases.
Mayor, and I do want to point. I do want to point out as well. I'm sorry. I do want to point out as well that 4.82%. We've been actually in double digits last month. It was lower than that. And moving forward, as we look at our tax revenues, we want to make sure that we're conservative as we start budgeting. I think right now I keep hearing, now how much are we over? Yeah, we're over $1.1 million at this point. But moving forward, we want to make sure that we're conservative in our estimates so we won't end up like we did the previous year where we were short $2 million. So again, we'll remain cautiously optimistic, but we'll make sure that as we move forward and budget that we take that into account, that these numbers are actually leveling off.
Well, also because compared to the cities that we compare ourselves to, we are significantly less than everybody else by at least half, and in many of them. So we need to be very cautious. We're going to come up against some double-digit increases that we had, and I think they'll be tough to beat. So, questions from council? The good news, it's still positive.
Yes, ma'am. That is good news.
Tina.
All right, thank you.
On item 7, follow-up on administrative issues, consider approving the following board nomination: the Zoning Board of Adjustments, Gary Cortez, by the mayor, to a regular position to an unexpired term from his alternative position, and it will end January 2020.
Move approval.
All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Passes 7-0. Item B, announcements and consideration of future agenda items. Yes, Julie?
Yes, just to announce that our next meeting, our reminder, will be held July 17th, so there won't be anything for the first Tuesday of the month. And then in August, we'll go back to our regular meetings, first and third Tuesdays, but additionally, we'll have our budget workshops on the off Tuesdays.
We should discuss whether we want those off Tuesdays, the time period that we will be doing those. I think sometimes we've had an evening session, so we need to talk about, and we don't have to do that today, we can do it in July, I guess, but talk about whether we want all 4 meetings to be at 8:30 in the morning or whether we need to have an evening meeting. All right, with that, may I have
Move we adjourn.
a second? Second. Any opposed to adjourning? If not, 7-0, we're adjourned.